breathing. It's breathing. He knows she's getting closer. He can feel her coming closer.
My name's Adam Cook, and I'm joined by Chris White to talk about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Chris, how are you?
I'm bloody fine.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting way of doing it. Let's so Hellblade is Ninja Theory, the makers of DMC, Devil May Cry, Enslaved, and Heavenly Sword. And this game is apparently going back to the Heavenly Sword style, like Hellblade opposite to Heavenly Sword. What can you tell us about this game? Starting with, what kind of game is it? What are we actually playing here?
So yeah, it's hard to kind of decipher from what you've seen, but it's basically a third-person, over-the-shoulder action hack and slash adventure game. You are a character called Senua, who is essentially suffering from psychosis. You find yourself in this world of monsters and demons and death and hell. And it's all kind of a reflection of her inner struggles with her mental health.
Okay, I mean, we should say we're not going to go too in depth. This won't be the longest review video you've ever seen on God is a Geek, because we don't want to show too much of it, and we don't want to spoil any of it. So, one of the things I noticed when I fired it up is that there's a warning about psychosis and generally mental health, and that they got someone in to basically be not an analyst. What's the word? They got someone in to steer them the right way in terms of the mental health. Can you talk to us about how that's how is it displayed then? What are we getting ourselves in for? Should we pick up Hellblade?
Yeah, well, you hear voices throughout the game, and they represent essentially different personalities, parts of her psyche. Obviously, she's suffering from psychosis, so she's hearing a lot of different voices in her head throughout the game. You've got one of them telling her that she's never going to amount to nothing. You'll fail this, you'll die, he's going to kill you, that kind of thing. There's another one that's kind of, you can do it, I think you can do it, you're nearly there, and then there's basically they keep talking to you and goading you or supporting you, and it represents the kind of things she's suffering from, and that's part of it. The other part is kind of some of the imagery you see, and it's very disturbing. Put it out there. If you have suffered from this kind of thing in the past, it's worth just maybe finding out a bit more about the game, because there's a warning at the start. It's very respectful of it. It doesn't use it for the sake of it or use it as an excuse to kind of do certain things in game. This is Ninja Theory we're talking about. These guys made Enslaved, and Enslaved is just perfection for an action game. They made the reboot of Devil May Cry. Obviously, Heavenly Sword we mentioned. They are masters of a craft, and a lot of people don't know what this game actually is, and it's been quite clouded in mystery for a while, and we've only recently saw the gameplay demo. But let me tell you, this game is in my top 5 games of the year, and if you get from you see it from the start and how it progresses, it's just ridiculously good. Like, visually, we've both said it's kind of one of the best looking games we've seen. It's up there.
It sort of approaches Uncharted 4 styling. I don't think it quite. In some respects, it's better, but in terms of the whole world of what I've seen of it, it doesn't quite get there.
No, I think you're right. I think one of the things that it's essentially, you're walking through a painting, you're walking through a photograph.
Yeah. It
looks gorgeous, but there's no interaction really with the environment.
No.
One thing I noticed is if you run through water, the water doesn't move
it's funny.
or anything like that.
I noticed that exact same thing. I actually went back and I thought, I wonder if her footsteps will leave, and it doesn't. But there are other touches.
It doesn't. It's not. The thing is, you're too engrossed in what's happening. Like the combat as well. We'll talk about the combat.
Yeah.
It's very kind of personal. Every fight is one-on-one. You're faced with them. There's no guns. Well, no ranged weaponry. It's all with your sword. You're fighting someone face to face. They've got a shield and an axe or a sword or some kind of blade. It's very kind of visceral, and it's just every fight means something, and every victory kind of is earned, and it's just a really kind of intense game to play, both in terms of the combat and in terms of the voices, because they also, You know, they play a role in your fights because you've got the ones that want to help you telling you that the enemy's behind you, they're coming at you now. So you just by them saying that, you know that they're about to attack, and because there's no camera angle to look behind you, you have to kind of hit block, and it'll stop the oncoming attack. And if you hit block at the right time, it slows things down for a minute, and it allows you to kind of attack a bit harder. And as the game progresses, those blocks build up your focus, and your focus is kind of like a way for you to just zone out of the voices and just focus on something without hearing anything. And there's a lot of moving parts in this game. For saying it's just like a very linear experience, there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of puzzle work. The runes pop up every now and again, which you can you take a mental image of, and then you have to find that shape of the rune somewhere in the environment. So it could be anything from like 2 wooden bars that kind of cross paths to, you know, a marking on the ground that you have to find, and doing that, it opens doors and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a really fucking great game. Like I was really happy with it.
I was just about to ask you that. I was going to say, we've talked about how it looks, how it sounds, how it plays. Is it actually any good? So yes is the answer.
I was surprised that I loved it so much. I was expecting to like it because I think what I've heard from it now, I know a bit more. It does sound really interesting, but you know, there are certain developers that make great games, and they kind of improve with age, and I think this is definitely another one. And now it's full on Ninja Theory. They've made it. This is theirs. They've got. The Senua is voiced by a lady called Melina, who worked on like their Devil May Cry editing. That she did the videos. She edited all that stuff. So she is now, because she's quite good friends with Tamim, the game's director. She's in it, and she nails the performance. Like when you see the stuff she goes through, she's great. And that's homegrown. You know, it's all kind of from one place. It's all very meaningful to the people that made it, and you can kind of tell. And it's a really kind of deep, interesting, emotional at times, powerful. It's just really good, and I'm really happy that I got to play it.
Well, I think we'll stop there purely because I'm conscious of showing too much of a story-based game, and there is a review on GodIsAGeek.com that you can read as well with a score on the end of it. What I'd be interested to know is if you did, if you watched this and if you read the review, tell us what you thought of the game if you bought it in the comment section of this YouTube video. Chris can be found at FirstAvenger83 on Twitter. I'm at GBSF. The site itself is at GodIsAGeek. And make sure you do go to GodIsAGeek.com where you'll see the full written review. Chris, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.